Admiral Tejo stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. His hands were clasped behind his back as he studied the reports on his desk. The message had come 3 days ago, and it still made him curious. The signal came from a small blue planet in a quiet corner of the galaxy. The beings who sent it called themselves humans. Their message was simple and polite. They wanted to meet other species and talk about trade. Nothing unusual about that. The Galactic Council had heard similar messages from hundreds of new species over the years. "Sir, the fleet is ready," said Commander Yi-jun, his second in command. The young officer looked excited. First contact missions were always interesting, and this one seemed like it would be easy. Tejo nodded. "Good, send the message to all ships. We jump in 1 hour. The Council's first contact protocol was well tested. Send a small fleet of diplomatic ships with some military escorts. Show enough strength to be taken seriously, but not so much as to scare the new species." Most young civilizations were impressed by their technology and eager to join the galactic community. Dr. Ji-woo walked onto the bridge carrying her datapad. She was the fleet's chief xenobiologist, responsible for studying new species. "Admiral, I've been looking at the human transmissions. They're quite interesting." "How so?" Tejo asked, turning to face her. Ji-woo adjusted her glasses. "Their language is complex. They seem to have many different cultures on one planet. Most species we meet have unified governments by the time they can send messages across space. But these humans appear to be divided into many different groups. That could make negotiations complicated," Yi-jun said with a frown. "Maybe," Ji-woo replied. "But their message came from one source, someone called the United Earth Government. So they might have worked together for this contact." Tejo looked at the star charts on his screen. The human system was far from the main trade routes. No strategic value. No rare resources that they knew of. Just another small civilization taking their first steps into the galaxy. "What about their technology level?" he asked. "Basic space travel. Simple communications. They've just started exploring their own solar system," Ji-woo answered. "Nothing we haven't seen before." Diplomat Wu Jin entered the bridge carrying his ceremonial robes. He would be the first to speak with the humans officially. "Admiral, I've prepared the standard first contact package. Information about the Council, trade opportunities, and membership requirements." "Excellent," Tejo said. "Are you nervous, Wu Jin? This is your first time leading contact with a new species." Wu Jin smiled confidently. "Not at all, sir. These humans sound peaceful and reasonable. I expect we'll have them as Council members within a year." The fleet consisted of 12 ships. 3 were diplomatic vessels with comfortable meeting rooms and translation equipment. 6 were medium-sized warships for protection. 3 were science ships to study the human system and planet. It was a standard formation that had worked well for decades. "Jump coordinates locked in," the navigation officer reported. "All ships report ready," added the communications officer. Tejo settled into his command chair. "Begin the jump." The stars stretched into lines as the fleet entered faster-than-light travel. The journey to the human system would take 6 hours. Tejo used the time to review everything they knew about humans. The species appeared to be mammalian, similar to several council races. They had sent images of themselves along with their message. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Their faces showed a wide range of features and skin colors. They looked harmless enough. Their planet, which they called Earth, was mostly covered in water. The land was divided between different nations, though the message suggested they were trying to work together more. Their population was in the billions, which was normal for a developing world. "Sir, we're approaching the target system," the navigation officer announced. "Drop us out of jump at the edge of the system," Tejo ordered. Standard first contact position. The fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel near the outer planets of the human system. Immediately, their sensors began scanning. What they found was exactly what they expected. "I'm reading several small space stations around their home planet," the sensor officer reported. "Primitive by our standards, but functional. They have some small ships moving between their planet and its moon." "Any signs of military activity?" Yi-jun asked. "Nothing significant. A few armed vessels, but they look like patrol ships for local security. No weapons that could threaten our fleet." Tejo nodded with satisfaction. Everything was proceeding normally. "Send the greeting message. Let them know we're here for peaceful contact." The message was transmitted toward Earth. It would take several minutes to reach the planet, and several more for a response. Standard procedure was to wait in the outer system until the local species was ready to meet. "Admiral, I'm picking up some interesting readings," the sensor officer said, frowning at his displays. "What kind of readings?" "There's something large moving in the outer system. Beyond the last planet. It's hard to get a clear reading because it's so far away." Jiwoo looked up from her studies. "Could it be a natural object? An asteroid or comet?" "I don't think so. It's moving in a straight line and maintaining constant speed. That suggests artificial control." Wu Jin moved closer to the sensor displays. "Could it be another human ship?" "If it is, it's much larger than anything else we've detected in this system," the sensor officer replied. Taeho felt a small stir of curiosity. "How large?" "Hard to say exactly at this distance. But it's big. Maybe the size of one of our heavy cruisers." That was unusual but not alarming. Sometimes developing civilizations built large, inefficient ships before they learned better techniques. The object was probably a slow cargo vessel or an experimental craft. "Keep monitoring it," Taeho ordered. "Focus on the inhabited areas for now." A response came from Earth much sooner than expected. The humans had been monitoring space around their planet and noticed the Council fleet immediately. Their message was polite and grateful. "Greetings, visitors from the stars. We are honored by your presence in our system. We have prepared representatives to meet with you. We request permission to send our diplomatic vessel to your location." Wu Jin smiled. "They're very respectful. This should go smoothly." "Grant them permission," Taeho said. "Ask them to approach slowly so we can guide them to the meeting point." As they waited for the human diplomatic ship, the mysterious large object continued moving through the outer system. It seemed to be on a course that would eventually bring it toward the inner planets. But it was still too far away to get detailed scans. "Sir, the human diplomatic ship is approaching," the communications officer announced. Taeho looked at the main display. A small, sleek vessel was moving toward their position. It looked well designed for a primitive species. "Not threatening at all. Very good. Signal them to dock with the diplomatic ship Harmony. Wu Jin, you're on." As the first meeting preparations began, Taeho found himself looking at the sensor readings from the outer system. That large object was still moving inward. Something about it bothered him, though he couldn't say why. "Admiral," the sensor officer called out, his voice carrying a note of concern. "That large object is accelerating. And, sir, I'm getting better readings now. It's much bigger than I first thought." The routine first contact mission was about to become much more interesting. Captain Do-hyun stood in the command center of the Eternal Sentinel, watching the tactical display with calm eyes. The massive warship had been cruising through the outer darkness of the human system for weeks, conducting routine patrol operations. Now, however, something interesting had appeared. "Captain, we have detected multiple unknown vessels in the inner system," reported Lieutenant So Young from her weapons station. Her fingers moved across the control panels with practiced ease. They appeared suddenly, suggesting faster-than-light capability. Do-hyun nodded thoughtfully. "How many ships, So Young?" 12 vessels, sir. Mixed types. Some appear to be diplomatic, others look like military escorts. They're maintaining position near the edge of the inner system." Commander Jaemin, the ship's first officer, stepped up beside the captain's chair. "Sir, Earth Command has sent us their analysis. These appear to be the aliens that Earth has been expecting. The Galactic Council." "Ah, the Council," Do-hyun said with interest. "Earth's diplomatic team has been preparing for this meeting for months. Have they made contact yet?" "Yes, sir. Ambassador Hyojin's team has already begun preliminary discussions. But Earth Command wants us to return to the inner system. They want to show the Council that humanity has defensive capabilities." Do-hyun smiled slightly. The Eternal Sentinel was indeed capable of defense, though calling it merely defensive was like calling a hurricane a light breeze. "Very well. Set course for Earth. Standard approach speed." "Sir, standard approach speed will take us 18 hours to reach the inner system," the navigation officer pointed out. "I'm aware of that, Lieutenant. We're not in a hurry. Let the Council get comfortable with their diplomatic meetings first." The Eternal Sentinel began its long journey toward Earth. The ship was enormous, stretching over 3 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull was dark gray, covered in thick armor plating that bore the scars of many battles. Weapon emplacements dotted its surface like metal thorns. Energy conduits glowed softly beneath the armor, showing the massive power flowing through the vessel. "Captain, should we inform the Council ships of our approach?" asked the communications officer. Not yet, Do-hyun replied. Let them discover us naturally. It will be more educational that way. Commander Jae-min checked his tablet. Sir, the Council fleet seems to be following standard first contact procedures. They're being very polite and patient with our diplomatic team. That's good. It shows they're civilized. Do-hyun studied the tactical display showing the Council ships. They looked well-designed and modern. Not primitive, but not particularly impressive either. What's your assessment of their military capabilities, Jae-min? Their warships appear to be well-armed for their size, Jae-min answered. Energy weapons, defensive shields, decent armor. They could probably handle most threats in this region of space. Against pirates or raiders, they would be quite effective. Against pirates, yes, Do-hyun agreed quietly. Lieutenant So-young looked up from her station. Captain, I'm reading some interesting energy signatures from their weapons. The technology is different from ours, but it seems efficient. Different approaches to the same problems, Do-hyun observed. That's what makes first contact so fascinating. Every species develops their own solutions. The Eternal Sentinel continued its steady approach toward the inner system. Its massive engines pushed the ship forward with surprising grace for something so large. The vessel had been designed for long patrol missions in the outer reaches of human space, hunting down threats before they could reach populated worlds. Sir, we're starting to get long-range sensor contacts on the Council ships, the sensor officer reported. They've detected something large approaching from the outer system, but they can't get clear readings yet. Let me know when they start getting better scans, Do-hyun said. Hours passed as the Eternal Sentinel drew closer to Earth. The ship's crew went about their duties with quiet efficiency. This was routine for them, though they understood it might not be routine for the aliens waiting ahead. Captain, the communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Dongwoo wants to speak with you. Put him through to my ready room, Do-hyun said, rising from his chair. Jae-min, you have the bridge. In his private office, Do-hyun activated the secure communication link. Admiral Dongwoo's face appeared on the screen, looking serious but pleased. Captain, how are the diplomatic meetings progressing? Do-hyun asked. Very well, the Admiral replied. These Council species seem reasonable and peaceful. They're offering trade agreements and membership in their organization. But Do-hyun, I need you to understand something important. They think we're a primitive species just beginning to explore space. Do-hyun raised an eyebrow. How primitive do they think we are? They're treating us like children taking their first steps into the galaxy. Friendly children, but children nonetheless. They have no idea what humanity is actually capable of. I see. And you want them to get a better understanding? Not a complete understanding, Admiral Dongwoo said with a slight smile. That might frighten them too much. But they should know that humanity is not defenseless. Your ship should provide an adequate demonstration. The Eternal Sentinel will certainly get their attention, Do-hyun agreed. Just remember, Captain, we want to make friends with these people. Show them our strength, but don't make them feel threatened. We're looking for partners, not subjects. Understood, Admiral. We'll be the polite neighbors who happen to have a very large fence. After the call ended, Do-hyun returned to the bridge. The Eternal Sentinel was now close enough to the inner system that the Council ships would be getting much clearer sensor readings. Status report, he requested. Sir, the Council ships have definitely detected us now, Lieutenant So-young reported. Their sensor activity has increased dramatically. I think they're trying to get detailed scans of our hull. Are they succeeding? Some basic information, yes. But our armor is designed to deflect most sensor types. They're probably getting confused readings. Commander Jae-min looked at the tactical display. Sir, one of their ships is changing position. Looks like their flagship is moving to get a better view of us. Natural curiosity, Do-hyun observed. How long until we reach Earth orbit? 6 hours at current speed, sir. Reduce speed to 1/4. Let's give them more time to study us. As the Eternal Sentinel slowed its approach, the Council ships became more active. Several of them moved to different positions, clearly trying to get better sensor readings on the massive human vessel approaching from the darkness. Captain, I'm detecting increased communications traffic between the Council ships, the communications officer reported. They're talking to each other quite a lot right now. I imagine they are, Do-hyun said with amusement. So-young, what do you think they're seeing when they scan our ship? Lieutenant So-young checked her displays. Well, sir, They can probably tell we're very large and heavily armored. They might be able to detect some of our weapon emplacements, but not all of them. Our power signature is definitely getting their attention. The power signature? Yes, sir. The Eternal Sentinel's reactors put out more energy than their entire fleet combined. They're probably wondering what we need all that power for. Commander Jaemin smiled grimly. They'll find out if anyone decides to cause trouble. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Do-hyun said. But if it does, we'll be ready. The massive warship continued its approach toward Earth, its presence growing larger and more threatening with each passing hour. On the council ships, alarm bells were starting to ring as the full scale of humanity's diplomatic vessel became clear. Ambassador Hee-jin sat across from the council representatives in the comfortable meeting room, aboard the diplomatic vessel Harmony. The atmosphere had been pleasant and professional for the past several hours. The alien seemed genuinely interested in establishing good relationships with humanity. Your species shows great promise, said Council Speaker Min-ho, a tall being with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms. We believe Earth would make an excellent addition to our community of civilized worlds. Hyejin smiled warmly. We're honored by your interest, Speaker Min-ho. Humanity has always dreamed of finding friends among the stars. Diplomat Woo Jin, a shorter alien with large eyes and gray skin, leaned forward eagerly. We've prepared information packages about council membership. The benefits include access to advanced technology, protected trade routes, and mutual defense agreements. Mutual defense? Asked Dr. Kyung-soo, the military historian who had joined the diplomatic mission. He was a quiet man who had been taking careful notes throughout the meeting. Yes, Woo Jin explained. The council maintains peacekeeping forces to protect member worlds from pirates, raiders, and other threats. Your world would be completely safe under our protection. Dr. Kyung-soo nodded thoughtfully. That's very generous. Of course, humanity has had to develop our own defensive measures over the years. Oh, we understand, said Ji-woo, the council's xenobiologist. Most young civilizations build some basic patrol ships for local security. Nothing to worry about once you have council protection. Hee-jin exchanged a brief glance with Dr. Kyung-soo. The council clearly viewed humanity as a primitive species that needed protection. This was both amusing and potentially useful for future negotiations. Dr. Kyung-soo, perhaps you could tell our new friends about some of humanity's recent challenges, Hee-jin suggested casually. The military historian adjusted his glasses. Well, there was the Proxima incident about 2 years ago. That was quite educational for our military planners. Proxima incident? Min-ho asked with polite interest. A hostile alien fleet tried to establish a foothold in our outer colonies. Dr. Kyung-soo explained in the same tone someone might use to discuss the weather. Aggressive species, well-armed, very determined. They had about 60 warships and seemed confident they could conquer human space. The council representatives looked concerned. Woo Jin spoke first. 60 warships? That's a significant threat for a developing civilization. How did you handle such a large force? Standard response protocol, Dr. Kyung-soo replied. We sent 3 patrol vessels to resolve the situation. The engagement lasted about 40 minutes. 3 ships against 60? Ji-woo asked, clearly worried. That sounds like a desperate last stand. How many casualties did humanity suffer? Casualties? Dr. Kyung-soo looked confused. Oh, you mean human casualties? None, actually. The patrol ships were quite effective, though we did lose some combat drones and had to replace a few weapon emplacements afterward. The room fell silent. Council Speaker Min-ho stared at the human military historian. You lost no personnel in a battle against 60 enemy warships? Well, Lieutenant Park sprained his wrist when his console exploded during the final engagement, Dr. Kyung-soo said thoughtfully. But that was due to equipment failure, not enemy action. The hostile fleet was neutralized before they could effectively return fire. Ambassador Hee-jin noticed the growing tension in the room. The council representatives were exchanging nervous glances. Time to change the subject slightly. Dr. Kyung-soo has extensive knowledge of military history, she said pleasantly. His specialty is conflict resolution and casualty optimization. Casualty optimization? Woo Jin asked weakly. Finding ways to minimize friendly casualties while maximizing enemy losses, Dr. Kyung-soo explained helpfully. It's a fascinating field. For example, in the Proxima incident, the acceptable loss ratio was calculated at no more than 1 human life per 1,000 enemy casualties. We actually exceeded expectations by achieving a 0 to total ratio. Jiwoo had gone very pale. You killed thousands of enemies without losing anyone. The hostile fleet contained approximately 12,000 crew members, Dr. Kyung-soo confirmed. Though killed might not be the right word. Most of them were vaporized when their ship's reactors went critical. Very quick and relatively painless, we hope. Council Speaker Minho cleared his throat nervously. Perhaps we could discuss trade opportunities instead? Excellent idea, Hyejin agreed. Humanity is particularly interested in exchanging technologies and resources. We're always eager to learn new approaches to common challenges. What kind of challenges? Minho asked, though he looked like he wasn't sure he wanted to know. Well, there's always the matter of maintaining galactic security, Dr. Kyung-soo said conversationally. Space is full of pirates, raiders, rogue AI systems, extinct civilizations that left dangerous automated defenses. Humanity has gained considerable experience dealing with such problems. Extinct civilizations? Wu Jin squeaked. Oh yes, we've encountered several. Most died out naturally, but a few had to be discontinued when their automated systems became threats to inhabited worlds. There was this one machine intelligence that had been strip mining solar systems for about 50,000 years. Quite aggressive when we tried to negotiate with it. What happened to it? Jiwoo asked, though she sounded like she didn't want to know. The fleet spent about 6 months hunting down all its mobile platforms. Difficult work since the machines could reproduce themselves using raw materials. In the end, we had to sterilize 17 solar systems to make sure we got them all. The council representatives sat in stunned silence. Ambassador Hyejin decided it was time to lighten the mood. But that's all in the past, she said cheerfully. Humanity is much more interested in peaceful cooperation these days. We've learned that most problems can be solved through diplomacy rather than force. Most problems? Minho asked faintly. Well, you can't negotiate with a supernova or a collapsing black hole, Dr. Kyung-soo pointed out reasonably, though we have developed some interesting techniques for managing stellar phenomena that threaten inhabited systems. Before anyone could ask about those techniques, an alarm began sounding throughout the ship. The council officers looked confused and concerned. What's happening? Wu Jin demanded. Admiral Taeho's voice came over the communication system. All personnel, we have a situation. The large object we detected approaching from the outer system is now close enough for detailed scans. It appears to be a warship of unprecedented size. Ambassador Hyejin looked at her watch. Oh, that would be the Eternal Sentinel. Captain Do-hyun is right on schedule. Captain Do-hyun? Minho asked. Yes, he commands one of our patrol vessels. Earth Command thought it would be appropriate to have some defensive presence during these negotiations. You understand, I'm sure. Standard security procedures, Dr. Kyung-soo nodded. The Eternal Sentinel is a Titan-class warship. Excellent for patrol duties in the outer colonies. Though I believe Captain Do-hyun is hoping for promotion to one of the newer Leviathan-class ships soon. The council representatives stared at the two humans in growing horror. If the massive ship approaching their fleet was just a patrol vessel commanded by a captain, hoping for promotion to something even larger, what exactly had they gotten themselves into? The diplomatic meeting suddenly felt much more dangerous than anyone had expected. Admiral Taeho stood frozen on his bridge, staring at the massive shape that had emerged from the darkness of space. The human warship was beyond anything in his experience. It dwarfed his flagship like a mountain dwarfs a pebble. Sir, we're getting detailed scans now, the sensor officer reported, his voice shaking. The ship is over 3 kilometers long. Hull thickness appears to be at least 50 meters of advanced armor plating. I'm reading hundreds of weapon emplacements. How many weapons? Commander Yijun asked quietly. I've counted over 800 so far, sir, and I'm still detecting more. The sensor officer paused, checking his readings again. Sir, this ship's main gun appears to be larger than our entire vessel. Taeho felt his mouth go dry. What about their power output? Beyond our ability to measure accurately, sir, but it's at least 50 times greater than our entire fleet combined. On the diplomatic ship, the council representatives had gathered around the main viewing screen. The human warship filled most of the display, its dark hull bristling with weapons and scarred by countless battles. This is a patrol ship? Wu Jin whispered. Ambassador Hyejin nodded pleasantly. Yes, the Eternal Sentinel handles routine security duties in our outer territories. Captain Do-hyun has been very effective at keeping the trade routes safe. Dr. Kyung-soo checked his notes. I believe the Eternal Sentinel has a perfect record. In the past 5 years, it has eliminated over 40 pirate fleets, 3 rogue AI networks, and that unfortunate military expedition from the Centauri Republic. Military expedition? Jiwoo asked weakly. Oh, they thought they could conquer some of our mining worlds, Dr. Kyung-soo explained. Sent about 200 warships. Very impressive fleet, really. Captain Do-hyun was quite respectful when he sent their surrender demands back to their home government. Council Speaker Min-ho was staring at the massive ship on the screen. How did he defeat 200 warships with just one vessel? Superior firepower and tactical positioning, Dr. Kyung-soo said matter-of-factly. Plus the Eternal Sentinel carries a full complement of fighter craft and support vessels. When you have overwhelming advantages, most conflicts end quickly. Suddenly, new alarms began sounding throughout the Council fleet. Admiral Taeho's voice came over the communication system, filled with panic. All ships, we have multiple contacts approaching fast. Unknown vessels decloaking all around our position. Ambassador Hyejin frowned and activated her communication device. Captain Do-hyun, what's happening out there? Captain Do-hyun's calm voice responded immediately. Ambassador, we have uninvited guests. A pirate fleet has just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. 43 ships heavily armed. They appear to be the Crimson Fang raiders that have been terrorizing this sector. The council representatives looked terrified. The Crimson Fang raiders were legendary in this part of space. They had been attacking council worlds for decades, and no fleet had ever successfully defeated them. How many ships did you say? Min-ho asked frantically. 43 confirmed, Do-hyun replied. Typical pirate configuration. Fast attack ships supported by several heavy cruisers. They're demanding that all vessels surrender immediately. Admiral Taeho's voice came over the communication system again. All ships prepare for emergency jump. We cannot fight the Crimson Fang with this few vessels. Ambassador Hyejin looked puzzled. Admiral, there's no need to retreat. Captain Do-hyun can handle this situation. One ship cannot defeat the entire Crimson Fang fleet, Taeho protested. Captain Do-hyun's voice carried a note of amusement. Admiral, with respect, 43 pirates hardly qualify as a fleet. This is more like a training exercise. Ambassador, do I have permission to clean up this minor inconvenience? Permission granted, Captain, Hyejin replied. Try not to make too much of a mess. Understood. All council vessels, please maintain your current positions. This should only take a few minutes. On the bridge of the Eternal Sentinel, Captain Do-hyun settled into his command chair. So-young, bring all weapon systems online. Bo-ra, full power to shields and engines. Chief Engineer Bo-ra's voice came from the engine room. Captain, reactors are at full output. All systems ready. Jaemin, what's the tactical situation? Do-hyun asked his first officer. Commander Jaemin studied the display. Sir, the pirates have formed a standard attack formation. They're trying to surround us. Typical strategy for dealing with larger vessels. Lieutenant So-young looked up from her weapons console. Sir, the pirates are hailing us. They're demanding our surrender and threatening to destroy the council fleet if we interfere. Do-hyun smiled coldly. Reply that we decline their kind offer. Then target their flagship. The Eternal Sentinel's main weapon systems came to life. Energy began building in the massive gun arrays that ran along the warship's hull. The space around the ship flickered with defensive fields and targeting sensors. Sir, the pirates are opening fire, Jaemin reported. The pirate fleet unleashed everything they had at the human warship. Dozens of energy beams and missiles struck the Eternal Sentinel's shields. The massive ship didn't even slow down. Minor shield fluctuations only, Bo-ra reported calmly. Their weapons can't penetrate our defensive systems. Return fire, Do-hyun ordered quietly. What followed was not a battle. It was an execution. The Eternal Sentinel's weapons spoke with devastating precision. The first salvo vaporized 6 pirate ships instantly. The second salvo destroyed 8 more. The pirates tried to scatter, but the human warship's targeting systems tracked each vessel with perfect accuracy. Sir, the remaining pirates are attempting to surrender, So-young reported. Negative, Do-hyun replied firmly. The Crimson Fang raiders have killed thousands of innocent civilians over the years. No mercy for murderers and slavers. The slaughter continued for exactly 2 minutes and 37 seconds. When it was over, 43 pirate ships had been reduced to expanding clouds of plasma and debris. The Eternal Sentinel had not suffered so much as a scratch on its hull. All threats eliminated, Do-hyun reported to the diplomatic ship. The trade routes are now safe for council shipping. In the meeting room aboard the diplomatic vessel, the council representatives sat in absolute silence. They had just watched a single human warship casually annihilate a pirate fleet that had terrorized their space for decades. Training exercise? Woo Jin whispered. Dr. Kyung-soo nodded approvingly. Captain Do-hyun's crew performed quite well. Very clean engagement, minimal ammunition expenditure. I'd estimate they used less than 1% of their available firepower. Ambassador Haijin smiled at the stunned aliens. Now then, shall we continue our discussions about trade agreements? I believe humanity has quite a lot to offer the Galactic Council. The Council representatives could only stare at her in shock and growing terror. They were beginning to understand that they weren't negotiating with a primitive species that needed their protection. They were sitting across from representatives of a civilization that could conquer their entire galaxy without breaking stride. The question now was, what did humanity want from them? 3 days had passed since the destruction of the Crimson Fang raiders. The Council fleet remained in human space, but the atmosphere had changed completely. What began as a routine first contact mission had become something else entirely. Council Elder Seung-ho arrived aboard the fastest ship the Council could provide. He was old, experienced, and had overseen first contact with over 30 species during his long career. But he had never faced anything like this situation. Admiral Taeho, report, he demanded as soon as he boarded the flagship. Taeho looked exhausted. He had barely slept since witnessing the casual destruction of the pirate fleet. Elder, we are dealing with a species far beyond anything we have encountered. Their single patrol ship could defeat our entire fleet without difficulty. Surely you're exaggerating, Seung-ho said, though his voice carried doubt. Sir, I wish I was. Taeho activated the tactical display. This is the human warship that destroyed the Crimson Fang fleet. Our analysis suggests it carries enough firepower to level a planet's surface. And according to the humans, this is one of their smaller military vessels. Seung-ho stared at the massive shape on the screen. The Eternal Sentinel hung in space like a dark mountain, its weapon-covered hull reflecting the light of the local star. What else have you learned? The humans have been watching our civilization for centuries, Taeho replied quietly. They know everything about us. Our technology, our military capabilities, our trade routes, our weaknesses. We know almost nothing about them. Before Seung-ho could respond, a communication came in from the diplomatic vessel. President Na-eun of the United Earth Government was requesting a formal meeting with the Council leadership. The human leader wants to meet personally? Seung-ho asked. Yes, sir. And she's not coming alone. An hour later, new ships began arriving in the system. But these were not the small diplomatic vessels the Council expected. These were warships that made even the Eternal Sentinel look modest by comparison. Elder, we're detecting massive energy signatures approaching from multiple directions, the sensor officer reported with barely controlled panic. I count at least 12 ships, each larger than the Eternal Sentinel. Fleet Admiral Dongwoo's command ship, the Infinite Harmony, was over 5 kilometers long and bristled with weapon systems that defied Council understanding. Around it moved an escort of heavy cruisers, each one capable of destroying entire fleets. This is their diplomatic escort, Taeho said weakly. Council Elder Seung-ho felt very old suddenly. How many ships like this do they have? We don't know, sir. But based on their casual remarks, this is a small formation by their standards. President Na-eun transported over to the Council flagship personally. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. She looked completely harmless, which somehow made her more frightening than any weapon. Council Elder Seung-ho, I'm honored to meet you, she said politely. I hope our first contact has been productive so far. President Na-eun, Seung-ho replied carefully. Your species has certainly made an impression. I do hope it's a positive impression. Humanity has been looking forward to meeting the Galactic Council for many years. We have great respect for what you've built here. They moved to the main conference room where the Council leadership had gathered. President Na-eun took a seat across from them, flanked by Fleet Admiral Dongwoo and Dr. Kyung-soo. Let me be direct, President Na-eun began. Humanity wants to be friends with the Galactic Council. We're impressed by your civilization's commitment to peace and cooperation. Those are values we share, but, Seung-ho prompted, sensing there was more. But we also believe that peace requires strength, Admiral Dongwoo said calmly. The galaxy is full of dangers. Pirates like the ones Captain Do-hyun eliminated, rogue AI systems, hostile aliens from beyond our borders. The Council has done well managing these threats. but you've reached the limits of what you can handle alone. Dr. Kyung-soo opened a datapad. Our intelligence shows that pirate activity has increased by 300% in the past decade. Several council worlds have been attacked, and your military forces are stretched thin trying to protect everyone. President Na-yoon leaned forward slightly. Humanity can help. We have the ships, the technology, and the experience to secure this entire region of space. No more Crimson Fang raiders, no more attacks on innocent worlds. Complete safety for all council members. In exchange for what? Seung-ho asked suspiciously. Friendship, President Na-yoon replied simply. Trade partnerships, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation. We're not interested in conquering or ruling anyone. We just want to be good neighbors. Council Speaker Min-ho, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. What you're offering sounds like protection. But we've seen what your patrol ships can do. How do we know you won't turn those weapons on us if we displease you? President Na-yoon's expression grew serious. Because that's not who we are. Humanity has had the power to conquer this galaxy for decades. If we wanted to rule through fear, we would have done it long ago. Instead, we waited for you to contact us. We wanted to meet you as equals, not as conquered subjects. Equals? Wu Jin laughed bitterly. How can we be equals when you have weapons that can destroy our entire civilization? Power isn't everything, Admiral Dongwu said quietly. The Council has something humanity values greatly. You have wisdom. You've learned how to make hundreds of different species work together peacefully. You've built a civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest. That's not easy, and it's not common. We respect what you've accomplished. Dr. Kyung-soo nodded. Humanity is very good at war, but we're still learning how to be good at peace. The Council could teach us a great deal. President Na-yoon smiled warmly. We don't want to replace the Galactic Council. We want to support it. Think of humanity as the strong friend who makes sure no one bothers you while you go about your important work. Council Elder Seung-ho considered this carefully. The humans were offering protection, partnership, and respect. But they were also demonstrating that refusal wasn't really an option. Not because they were threatening the Council directly, but because the galaxy was clearly too dangerous for the Council to handle alone. If we agree to this partnership, he said slowly, what would change? Very little initially, President Na-yoon replied. The Council continues governing as before. We establish some trade agreements and exchange scientific information. Humanity begins patrolling the outer regions to intercept threats before they reach Council space. Over time, we work more closely together as trust builds. And if we refuse? President Na-yoon's expression didn't change, but somehow the room felt colder. Then humanity will continue protecting human space, and the Council will continue protecting Council space. But the galaxy is becoming more dangerous every year. Eventually, you'll face threats you can't handle alone. The message was clear without being spoken directly. The Council could have humanity as a protective ally, or they could face the galaxy's growing dangers without that protection. There wasn't really a third option. Council Elder Seung-ho looked around the table at his colleagues. They all understood the situation. The vote was merely a formality. The Galactic Council accepts humanity's offer of partnership, he said formally. President Na-yoon's warm smile returned. Welcome to a new age of galactic cooperation. I think this is going to be the beginning of something wonderful. Outside the conference room's windows, the human fleet hung in space like sleeping giants. They looked peaceful now, but everyone present understood what they represented. Humanity had revealed itself as the galaxy's apex predator, one that had chosen benevolence over domination. The Galactic Council would sleep safely under humanity's protection. They would also never forget that they needed that protection to survive. The age of human guardianship over the galaxy had begun,